Ladies and gentlemen, you are now listening to the #1 sports podcast, broadcasting Sundays at 9 a.m.-ish in Sacramento, California. Sports Talk 916. Now here are your hosts, Greg Bowl and Coach Greg Barroso.
Good morning. It's a little closer to 9 than ish for us, but 9:03, and you are tuned into episode number 266 of this little shindig we call Sports Talk 916. I'm Coach Greg. There is Mr. Chief, Greg Bowl.
Sweet.
And together we're the two-headed monsters of Greg that we call Sports Talk 916. Welcome. How's it going, man?
Good. How are you?
Hey, good. I hear you're opening up a new business.
What?
I hear you're opening up a new business.
Oh, the moving company?
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't want your shit, I'll just throw it out the back of a truck.
Moving and furniture destroying business.
Right.
I have to tell you a funny story though. You left, and about 2 minutes later, my mom, who you met yesterday, it's like, that guy's a jerk.
What?
I said, why? He broke that thing and he just left it here for you to deal with. I'm like, I told him to. He's like, he's still a jerk. I'm like, well, you figured him out pretty well, but
right? You're not, but
so I talked her off the ledge. She was going to come hunt you down and make you take that, but God, I'm getting dizzy.
Yeah.
So anyway, so she was going to come hunt you down and find you and make you take the thing that little shelving unit that took a little ride along Sunrise Boulevard.
Right. Greg is a jerk. That's right, Oscar. I saw a meme yesterday, or I saw like an advertisement for a shirt yesterday that I want to get. It says, why do you keep asking why I'm an asshole? I don't ask you why you're so stupid. I want that shirt so bad. But anyways, yeah. I'm good with that.
Yeah, that's all right. It is what it is.
Right. I mean,
I've been called
she could have called me like a nice guy or something that would have been totally far off.
Yeah. And I've been called a lot worse by her many times. So
right. Hey, Oscar. Good news. We're starting with King's Talk today, so you don't have to leave and come back. Yeah, your mom's cool, but whatever. If she thinks I'm a jerk, then
she just thought you were a jerk for yesterday.
No, that's fine. I'll take it. So how's your week, man? Besides me trashing your furniture.
Been good. It's been busy. Got another house into contract this week, so
nice.
Keeping that income flow going, and
you can take over the cost of our broadcasting site, so I don't have to keep paying for it.
I thought we had advertisers for that.
Yeah, we do. Greg Verosa from Keller Williams Realty.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
God damn, I cannot get this. It's bugging me that I'm not centered. There we go. Yeah. So real quick before we get into the King's Talk, we do.
By the way, how was your week?
Busy. We closed on a new house that we're buying, and bought a lot of furniture for it. Not a lot of furniture, but bought some furniture for it.
What'd you get?
Well, we got a sleeper sofa thing for the front living room. RC Willie had it on their closeout clearance, so it was pretty cheap. And then we got my dad a nice like plush recliner for Christmas for his room.
All right. Right on.
So yeah, but just a lot coming in. I don't want to pack. I don't want to fucking pack, and we're like getting down to the 0 hour, and or 11th hour, and it's like fuck, we really should pack. But
you got more boxes than you're ever gonna need. So
yeah, no shit. But yeah, so good week. Nothing to complain about really. But I do want to talk real quick about the website. Last week we had Nolan and Chad on.
It was awesome. Did a great job.
That was by far one of our most engaging and successful guest spots and really episodes that we've had. And the support and the interest in that was so intense that we have decided that Chad and Nolan both have become writers for the Sports Talk 916 blog, which you can find at sportstalk916.com. They have their own subsection now, Tank Talk. So there's going to be a lot of Sharks coverage coming from them.
I like that.
Chad already put up a really cool article, and Nolan has a article planned for the first of the year, which is basically going to be the midway point recap, grades for the entire organization and going forward. And those two are going to come on every now and again whenever they want and do their own Tank Talk episodes broadcasted from Sports Talk 916 page. That way we don't cloud everything up with our questions and unknowns. They can just go on and drop their knowledge. So that's coming to 2019. We'll expand that a little bit, and that should be some fun for sure. But what we're going to get into now is
hey, before we start, I want to give a shout out to somebody that we've had our little differences with every once in a while, but something cool happened to him, and that's our buddy Keith Jugonitis.
Right.
And I don't know if you have this on for later on, but he's been doing some play-by-play stuff on an interim basis, kind of a audition type thing for NorCal Sports TV. And he just posted yesterday that he was hired full-time for them. So he's going to be doing some play-by-play. And we don't always agree with Keith, and it's always a good conversation, but he's a good dude, and congratulations for getting that full-time gig.
Yeah, for sure. Keith, he has his moments of being kind of outlandish, and I think sometimes his approach is to stir the pot for sure.
Yep.
But whether you agree with him or not, that kid grinds and he takes adversity on the chin and keeps going with it, and I think it's well deserved for him for sure.
Yeah, no, he's a good guy.
Chad can write a little bit. He actually wrote a pretty good article, Oscar. It's probably a little different from what you remember, but he's doing all right. But yeah, let's jump into Kings talk. So the Kings 2018 we'll say has been how do we want to say it? It's been
up and down,
exceeding expectations.
Oh yeah,
with bursts of mediocrity and pessimism. But overall, it's been an extremely exciting time. It's been a lot of fun. I like Keith was not on the freeway. Yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah, me too.
There's a lot going on with the Kings, and it's one of those things where it's a lot of fun to engage. We give the Kings fans a lot of shit because of some of the stuff they talk about and some of the things that they do. But when it all comes down to it, we're all supporters of this team, and it's been a fun ride so far. But it's only going to get a little bit tougher right now. The Kings are playing well. They're 17-15, which no one. I mean, a lot of people had the Kings winning 25 games, right? 20.
I was 25 to 30.
So you figure right now they've played 32 games this season. So for them to be at the I'm not going to be good at math. They'd have to go 13-40 over the stretch of the end of the year to hit a 30-win season, and I just don't see that team doing that. So they're exceeding expectations. They're playing really, really good basketball, but it's going to get a little tough going forward. Right now, so if we look at the rest of this season and then going into this calendar year and then going into the start of 2019, it's going to be Charlie Wells says, I think a lot of people have the Kings winning 17 games, and I don't disagree with that at all. Oscar said he had them at 23-27. So just in that little consensus, it's definitely been something that's exceeding expectations. They have the Pelicans at home tonight. Then they go to the Clippers on the 26th. They have the Lakers on a essentially a back-to-back home and away schedule on the 27th and then on the 30th. So a little bit of a tough stretch. The Pelicans are beatable. The Clippers are definitely beatable. The Lakers, it's going to be a coin flip. It depends on what Laker team shows up with LeBron. I mean, LeBron's got that team playing out of their mind right now. Again, another team exceeding expectations beyond belief.
And I could see a split right there.
So can I. I can see it being a split where the home team loses both games.
I do too. I was just thinking the same thing.
And then it gets a little dicey starting on New Year's Day. Luckily for the Kings, they start January 7 of 8 games in January at home, which is nice. So they host Portland on the 1st, which is winnable. Portland's playing very good basketball, but it's winnable. They have Denver at home, which is going to be tough. Denver is so far, I think, the team of the year. Mike Malone's got those guys playing absurd.
Imagine that, Mike Malone having them play well. Maybe he should start watching out for his job.
Exactly. Then you have Golden State at home. We just had one of the best games of the season. Yeah, we do play them. Like Oscar says, unfortunately, we play the Fakers here on the second night of a back-to-back. With they're in LA and then they come home, which is why I think the Lakers and Kings split that home and away with the home team losing the games. They have Golden State. So those 3 games to start the year, Portland, Denver, Golden State, I can easily see that going 1-2 in favor of against the Kings. Win Portland, lose Denver, lose Golden State. I mean, just based on that. Then they get a little bit of a break with Orlando. Then they have a back-to-back in Phoenix. Both of those are very winnable. And then home for Detroit, home for Charlotte, home again for Portland. So those 8 games to start the year are rough to say the least. I can definitely see the team staying above 500. I don't think they fall. And then they go on a road trip that's going to be rough. I mean, not necessarily the teams they play in January, but just the travel. They have at Charlotte, at Detroit, at Brooklyn, at Toronto, at Memphis, at the Clippers before they come home to face Atlanta on a 5-game homestand.
Wow.
It's gonna be crazy in January for the Sacramento Kings. Chris says, "Hell no, it's our time to beat the Warriors after those 2 losses to them." I don't think that it's out of the realm of possibility. I think that the Warriors, let's say Bagley's back and let's say everyone's healthy and Shump plays, the full game. He doesn't leave, late in the game with an injury. I can definitely see the Kings beating that Warriors team, and I don't think it would be close. I think the Kings have figured out how to run with them and can definitely make that work. But man, January is going to really test the grit and strength of this young core, and really put some pressure on. Really put some pressure on Coach Yeager to see how they handle the adversity, because it's going to be rough. I mean, like I said, Oscar mentioned they have a back-to-back with the Lakers at home. Then they go to the Lakers. Then they have a day off. They're in Portland. Then they have a couple of games with break. Then they have another back-to-back where they're at Phoenix. Then again, at the end of January, they're on another back-to-back where they're in Toronto on the back night of a back-to-back. So it's like the Kings drew the short stick when it comes to every single back-to-back this season, it seems like.
Right.
Well, on the second night of a back-to-back, they're getting top-notch talent. And unfortunately for us, a lot of those times, those teams that they're playing aren't on a back-to-back themselves. They're coming off a rest game. So it's like, man, that's not fair, So we'll see how it goes. But Oscar says November was a test. December has been a test. I think those were like the pre-tests, right? Those are the open book. You can look at your notes kind of test. I think January is the final, if you look at it that way. If you look at it in the terms of testing,
I think the whole season is a test. And here's what I've been, running around in my head the last couple of weeks, and excuse me, in just paying attention to the team. This team is a 500 team. They're going to be flirting with 500 all season, which means they're going to have a couple of streaks where they win a couple of games, and they're going to have a couple of streaks where they lose a couple of games. And every month is going to be a test because they're still trying to find themselves. And a couple of injuries, and this thing could go bad. A couple of good plays, and a couple of good games, and it could send them on a winning streak that, we're just not ready. We're just not expecting.
What if I take that though? Hold on. Let me elaborate on, or let me expand on that thought of yours before you finish.
Okay.
What if injuries around the Kings does the complete opposite? You say if the Kings have injuries, it turns bad. Well, let's look at some of the other teams with injuries that are going on right now. Like Houston just lost Chris Paul.
Right.
Houston essentially is going to tumble down the standings. If Portland drops Lillard or McCollum, those guys could fall.
Right.
Denver's probably a injury or two away from not being unstoppable. Golden State, they're probably the one team. They're probably the one team that can afford an injury to a big player and still be okay, just because they have so many players that are of that talent level. I don't know that the Pelicans could sustain a large injury. I mean, I don't think, if AD goes down their toes, but I mean, they have a couple role players that can be okay. The Lakers the same way. Like, there's not, any of these teams, if the Kings can stay healthy and keep winning, and one of those other teams or two of those other teams in the West start to fall or start to, get hurt a little bit, this Kings team could do the complete opposite of what you're saying. They could catapult up the standings, and they could, they can foreseeably be a 6 or 5 seed if they continue to play well and other teams start to get hurt. The West is so close with, I believe every team right now is hovering around 500 except for Phoenix in the West.
Right. Right.
Insane.
It is. And, Golden State's already had their injury issues. They're starting to get guys coming back, and they didn't play well. I mean, they were about a 500 team when Steph and Draymond were out. That's the thing about this West is a couple of injuries to somebody, and it's going to have a drastic effect.
So
the effect on – what's that?
No, go ahead. I was just going to clarify what I said, but I'll let you finish first.
Okay. So I just lost my train of – go ahead. I just lost my train of thought. I got a text that cracked me up.
So basically I was saying that, almost every team is hovering around 500.
Right.
That's changed a little bit. I mean, Phoenix is 8-25. They're not doing anything. Minnesota's 4 under 500. The Pelicans are 3 under. Utah's, which is a huge surprise to me, is 16-18. But basically from 9, 10, 11, 12, down to the 12th seed, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. From 11 and up, Memphis and up, it's 500 ball or better. And, the Kings are right there. If the season ended right now, they're tied for 8th with Houston, with San Antonio right behind them. So the West is going to be crazy. I mean, Denver, Oklahoma City right now are the top teams at 21-10. Golden State 22-11. Both LA teams are 19-13. And then Portland's at 18-14. So the West is ridiculous.
It is. And just to kind of finish up on what I'm saying is, as fans and as the team, you're going to have to be ready for them playing bad for 4 or 5 games,
right,
and then turning around and playing good for 4 or 5 games, and not jumping off the roof because they lost a couple of games. The Oklahoma City game, I was at that game, and it was horrible. They had some runs, but it was horrible. They played bad. But Oklahoma City, as you just said it, they're one of the top 2 teams in the West. We're not at that level yet. We're at a level where we're just going to kind of fight for the rest of the season. We're going to be, I can see us fluctuating from 6 to 11 almost on a daily basis. I mean, a couple of wins, we'll be in 7, no, probably 7th through 11. We're going to be 7th. Then after a couple of games, we could be 11th. Then we could be 10th. And then it's going to be all over the place. And I think fans have to get ready for that. And I think Jaeger knows that. And I think he's getting them ready for that and has them ready for that. And I think he's made a couple of moves, or the team's made a couple of moves in terms of sending guys down to get them some playing time and get them right, so that when we do have a little bit of a bad stretch, we can bring them back.
Right. Oscar, that's our next topic. So hold that thought. You mentioned they could fluctuate between 11 and 7. Right now they're sitting in 10. No, I'm sorry, they're in 9th at 17 and 15. They're only 2 games out of 4th.
Wow.
So they're two games back of both LA teams to go as high as 4th place. And then, they're a game back, or they're 2 games back of falling all the way down to 14th or 12th.
Right.
So,
right.
I mean, it can be crazy up and down.
Yeah.
Oscar says, do you think Willie Cauley-Stein gets traded before the deadline? And that kind of falls into both of or two of our next topics. Do the Kings need a true three? And the Willie Cauley-Stein show continues. Chris says he hopes Trill doesn't get traded. Oscar says, do you think Willie Cauley-Stein gets traded before the deadline? We were talking about this at length on the other night when the Kings were playing Memphis. We went out to dinner with a couple of our old season ticket friends. We were sitting around and talking about it. And, I like Willie Cauley-Stein, the way he's playing. I like the fact that he's out there grinding and giving energy. And, his offense right now is something that literally can take a quiet arena and catapult it into just a frenzy.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And he's playing well with Fox. And he's playing well with Giles, or not Giles. I'm sorry, with Bogey and Heald, and all these guys. They're mending well, but I just have this feeling that if they pay him, he's gonna just disappear. He's so focused on what everyone else is getting paid and what everyone else is doing around the league, and what it takes to be this next $100 million player, that I just feel that his mind isn't right. He's not. In my opinion, he should not be part of the future plans. And I think if he continues to play the way he is playing, I think he's a true trade commodity come the deadline, because you let someone else kind of flirt with the idea of signing him long term and see what you could get for him, because he's definitely playing. He falls into that Kings mode, right? He's exceeding expectations. Well, he's exceeding expectations based on previous mediocre play.
He's inconsistently exceeding expectations, if that makes any sense.
Exactly.
And I think though, what you have to do is you have to take the way these guys have played in the past and put it in the past, because it's a completely different system. And to compare how these guys have played in the last couple years versus how they're playing right now, you can't do it, because it's a whole different system. So got to give him a little bit of credit or slack, but when we drafted this kid, we drafted him based on his defensive ability, not his offense. Huh?
He's the worst defensive big man in the league.
Oh, I know. And I heard a thing on Napier this week, and he said that some reporter had reported that his not playing defense is a conscious decision. One, about the money, and two, apparently he tried to block somebody slam dunking, and he hurt his hand on the rim. So now he's afraid of going to the rim to play defense. Right.
Willie actually had a direct quote about that this week. Someone asked him about, his defense, and he basically said that it's a mental block. Exactly what you said. It was either his freshman year or his rookie season, one of the two. I can't remember. It was one of his young years as a basketball player. He basically said he went up to block a shot at the rim. The ball got dunked on him. He dislocated his finger, and it's been a mental block ever since, and he can't get past it. So when he goes like, oh, I should go up there and block that, in his mind, he goes, oh, no, I shouldn't, because I'm going to get hurt. And to me, and a lot of people that play sports will tell you the same thing, is if you go out there and you're worrying about injury, you're more likely to get injured. Because you're not focused. You're focused on what you should do, and you're not focused on what's going on around you. And they've talked a lot about it, like players that have like the knee injury, or players that broke a hand, or hurt, twisted an ankle. If every time you jump you're worried about landing on someone's foot, you're going to get hurt in another way, because you're not fully focused.
Right.
And I think that's actually, and he says, well, unless you've had that mental block, then you don't know what's going on. To me, he's using it as an excuse to play soft defense.
Yeah.
And someone said earlier, is he Charlie says, is he really focused on the money, or is he just too honest about it? I think it goes hand in hand with him. I think he's too honest about it. He opens his mouth too freely, and he puts his foot in his mouth too much. But at the same time, that I think is going to potentially hurt his value with other teams because he's talking too much, and they're going to hear that, and they're going to be like, well, do we really want to pay this kid?
Right.
But at the same time, I think he's shown that he's very much focused on things outside of basketball, which is fine. Like, I have no problem with you being an artist and designing clothing and your mouthpieces and all that stuff, but save that for the off season. Don't put so much focus on it during the year. And that's why I think that if you can move him to one of the LA teams, I think the Clippers would be very, very happy to bring in a Willie Cauley-Stein because it would give them somewhat of a DeAndre Jordan style player if they could get him rebounding the ball. I think
LA, what are you going to get back for him, though?
I don't think you need to get a lot back for him. Get me a draft pick for him. The Kings are thin in the draft this year. Get a young player, get a draft.
We need another young player, though. I mean, we're loaded with young players.
No, but if you could get me like a serviceable, small forward and a draft and a couple draft picks that maybe you can use to trade for someone else, you do it. But I think, in LA, I think New York, it would be really good for him, or New Jersey, because, it's right there in that fashion hub. That's what I ultimately think that's what he wants to do, is he wants to cement himself for his post-basketball career before he's even ready to be post-basketball.
Yeah.
TJ says he's going to Charlotte. Oscar says, can someone tell me what the WCS red tattoo says? Oscar, we have every game, Sheena tries to pull up pictures of his face to see what the hell those little red tattoos say. He does fit our Chris says he fits with us because he can run the court almost better than any center in the league. He does.
Absolutely.
But the problem is he allows every other center in the league to put up career numbers against him. He's not a defensive player. And when you're giving up that much in the paint, it's a problem. And, I was watching the game against Memphis the other night, and it was right after I read those comments about him and his rebounding. One of the Memphis players threw up a three. The only people in the paint were him, Buddy, and Bogey, right? No Memphis player was within 5-6 feet of him when the three went up. Bogey and Buddy started crashing in to get in position for a rebound. Willie was backpedaling. Like, he didn't even want to go for a rebound with no competition around him.
Right.
He doesn't, I don't know. It's a problem when every center in the league sees the Kings on the schedule and starts licking their chops because they know that Willie's the starting center and they can dominate.
Yeah.
And then you have guys like Kosta Koufis that come in. He's not as skilled offensively. He's not as fast. But Kosta Koufis has one of the best defensive ratings in the entire league as a center. So it's one of those things where it's like, fuck, I like Willie's offense, but I wish he would play defense.
Yeah. And
I'm afraid that, Vivek or Vladi may get a hair up their ass and they go, we are going to give him money. I would be okay signing Willie Cauley-Stein for like 13 or 14 million a year. He's not a 25 million. Give him a 4-year deal at 14 million, give him 60 million. He's nowhere near $100 million guy. No. The Kings have the cap space to sign him to like a $60 million contract and still have the money to go out and get a max player deal or max level deal. So there's flexibility. What are his numbers? What are his rebounding numbers this year? They're career highs, I'll tell you that, but they're not good for what he should be getting. Willie Cauley-Stein, I don't want the. Let's see. On the season, Willie Cauley-Stein is averaging 13.7 points and 8.3 rebounds a game.
Hey, we're international today.
What's that?
I said we have an international show today. Somebody's watching us from Mexico.
Oh, nice. You think Willie Cauley-Stein's going to be better throughout the year? I think he will be better throughout the year, too, and I think that's going to boost his trade value.
Yeah.
Willie's averaging 8.3, which, that's not good per se, but, I mean, he is leading the team. I mean, Bielitsa, he's big, and he only averages 5.8, but he's a stretch four, so he's away from the rim.
Right.
Bagley's averaging 6.1. That's gone up a lot for Bagley. To start the year, he was at like 3 or 4. But I just think that the problem is his defensive stats are just tremendously bad. And I wish I knew who posted it, but there was a thing the other day that someone, I think it was on Minnesota, posted, going to get ready for a big game. just fill the paint when 00's in there or something, right? It was just like a super vague post on Twitter. And whoever it was that just played the Kings, the next game up was against OKC. And, or I guess it was, no, he's not on OKC anymore. Where is he? I think he's in New York. Enes Kanter. Where is he playing at right now? Do you know?
I don't know. No.
Anyways, Enes Kanter responded to that tweet and was like, you better hold on to that L. We're coming for you. Like, he took offense to it because it was like 00's coming. It was hilarious. But the problem is the league is catching wind of Willie Cauley-Stein as a soft middle. And TJ says coming out of college, he's known for his defense. That was one of the things that we drafted him for.
Right.
And man, if freshman or if rookie season when he dislocated that finger, which I think it was, he's got to get over that because that's what he was drafted for.
And that's what's going to make him a $100 million player. If he is, he's got to be a defensive stopper. What I saw the other night was soft rebounding. We were laughing because Westbrook missed 5 free throws in a row at one point in the game. Mm-hmm. And on the second of those, so he went up, shot 2 free throws, missed. We got, I don't know, jumbo jacks or something. I know. And then a couple minutes later got fouled again. The second of those, every time he missed, Steven Adams got the rebounds.
Yep.
And I think that even after that, they kicked it out, took a 3, missed. Steven Adams got the rebound again. They kicked it out, got a mid-range jumper for 2, and scored.
Oscar just said it. Adams looked all league against Willie Cauley-Stein.
He did. Willie's great for the posterized, big time, get everybody out of their seat. I don't want that. I want somebody who's going to knock Steven Adams on his ass and not let him get into the paint and make him really have to work for those points that he gets in the paint and the rebounds. That's what I want. Willie Cauley, I mean, we got shooters. We got people that can make the flashy dunks. This team needs a rebounder, and I don't know that you're going to get it if you make a trade. I don't think that we have the trade capital to get somebody who's an effective rebounder. I don't know. We're going to have to try to sign a free agent, or we're not going to get anybody in the draft. So we're going to have to go after a free agent, which I think is going to be possible this year. I think people are going to
absolutely. Chris Levine says I would agree. Give him 4 years, $70 million at the most. Yeah, that would be about the area I'd want to see Willie Cauley-Stein paid at. And it's one of those things where if Bagley continues to grow, then Bagley can be that stretch 4 who pulls the fans out of the seats and gives that exciting offense and stretches the court, and allows you to kind of move away from Willie Cauley-Stein.
And I think the Kings are missing Bagley right now. Since he's gotten hurt is when they've kind of started getting down a little bit. Yeah. I think they miss Bagley a lot.
Yeah, and then think about this too. If Giles can figure it out, then you have 2 players that can be that exciting offensive thing, and you don't need Willie Cauley-Stein.
And De'Aaron Fox is that guy too.
Yeah, without a doubt.
He's not going to have the high flying slam dunk putback or the alley oop, but he's going to blow by people to go to the rim just as much as that, and that's going to do the same thing.
So the other thing that you mentioned is free agents, right? And we talked about last week. We kind of talked about the Kevin Durant having the Kings in his mouth so much and all this other stuff. And I said that there's I think that there's a. Can you tell me how much longer we have Shump? I think Shumpert, if the Kings do try to go out and get a big 3, like a true small forward, then I think Shump has to be included in the deal, which I'm not sure I like because I think Shumpert has been a great piece to the locker room. And he's getting these guys together and, everyone's playing well. But I also think that if the Kings are in the push for a playoff spot, I think that you have Shumpert throughout the rest of the year. If it's looking grim that the Kings, might not make the playoffs, or let's say they're going to be the 8th seed and the Warriors or whoever the number 1 seed is are just, putting everyone flat on their ass, then I think you might trade Shumpert at the deadline to a contender and see what you can get for him, kind of as a good faith effort to him for what he's done. But by all accounts, it looks like Shump wants to be here. He likes being here. He's been praising the city and the team since day one. So I think that one's it's going to be a tough one to figure out. I like him. I don't want to see him go. But at the same time, are you going to be able to re-sign him on Shumpert next season? I mean, he's going to want to go. It's going to be tough. I want to keep him. If you have to decide between Shumpert, Willie Cauley-Stein, moving Kosta Koufis, Macklemore. I think there's plenty of guys on this list that you can move and still protect Amon Shumpert before you have to. I think he's a last ditch effort, like last resort trade piece. Like if God forbid if Bagley goes down for a long term, or if Fox goes down or something, you need a playmaker, and Shump is the fringe player in a deal that brings someone in, then I think you move him.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't want to see you just trading him to trade him.
Right.
But no, you mentioned free agents a little bit ago, and we talked about Kevin Durant possibility of coming here and how he's talking about the Kings, and if the Kings weren't on his radar, he wouldn't be praising them and talking so much about them almost unprovoked. Like he's brought him up multiple times without any kind of questions about the Kings, and everyone's like, no, you're crazy, it's not going to happen. I've had multiple friends, Kings fans and Warriors fans, contacting us like on the page and just kind of in conversation around, and they're like, do you really think it could happen? Like, we're hearing things in the Warriors communities and the chat circles and on the broadcast that are mentioning Durant possibly seeing Sacramento as a destination to go to because of how much he likes Fox and Bagley and the coach and all this other stuff. I even started seeing it on ESPN that there was talks about where could Kevin Durant go, and people are mentioning Sacramento as a possibility for him to land. And I think the big thing is, everyone assumes that Kevin Durant was going to hightail it to LA to play with LeBron, right? That was like the one thing that people thought, or he's going to go home to Washington. Well, Washington's a shit show, and I don't think he goes to Washington. But now LeBron is essentially campaigning for Anthony Davis to join the Lakers. Yeah. And, if LeBron wants Anthony Davis, there's a pretty damn good chance that LeBron's going to get Anthony Davis, and there's not going to be any question about it. He's just going to go there. So I think the KD to Sacramento thing is going to be something to watch. And I can even see the Kings getting ballsy at the end of the year or the deadline. And if DeMarcus comes back and he's healthy and Green comes back and he's, got his head right, and if Klay Thompson talks start picking up about, giving him a deal, I can see the Kings even trying to maybe throw a trade package together to Golden State and bring KD here for the end of the year. And then at that point, the Kings have the opportunity to give him more money than any other team in the league because he's on their roster. And the Kings have the most cap space in the entire league next season to sign KD to a max deal.
Right. The only thing, I don't think they have enough pieces to be able to put a trade together. I think a trade for KD is going to have to include a first-round draft pick, and we don't have one.
No, but we have one in 2021 or 2020. It can always be the Warriors don't need a young player to come in next season and be a home run. And anyways, even if the Warriors, they don't rely on heavy draft picks.
And and when they draft, they end up drafting low, but they end up getting good guys. They get good value out of those low draft picks. But
in 2021 or 2020, if the Kings throw in a first rounder and it ends up being a 16th, 17th, 18th, it's not going to be a lottery pick. The Kings are on their way up.
I don't think we can trade our 20. Can we trade our 2020 draft pick since we traded away our 2019?
We could trade our 2021.
Yeah, I didn't think we could trade 2 first-round draft picks in a row.
Right, but the Kings could also make a move to get another. If let's say the Kings made a deal with Portland and took on like a Miles Plumlee or somebody up there, and they get a Oscar, I don't think they're going to trade him, but I think the Kings could try, to try to get him in here earlier. I do think the Kings, they're going to make a run at a top free agent, and I think Durant makes the most sense. Durant running the 3 with this young team would be amazing. Yeah. But I just think it's exciting that national people are starting to talk about it. Local people are talking about it. Warriors fans are getting worried about it, which I think is the best part about the whole thing. And it's just exciting that the Kings are in a situation where it's not like, oh, hey, Durant may come to Sacramento. Yeah, no way. Just move on. Let's not even talk about it anymore. But we're actually in the conversation, which I think is extremely fun. So
and real quick, getting back to Willie Cauley.
Yeah.
We talked about this quite a while ago. And I went through and I pulled out all of the teams that had all-star centers, dominating centers that won NBA championships. And it was basically like 4 people. It was Shaq, it was Kareem, it was Olajuwon, and I don't know, somebody else in the last 25 years.
Right.
I'd be all right with losing Willie Cauley-Stein and getting I would love to have a Steven Adams type of center. That would be my ideal kind of guy.
God, if we can get a guy like Steven Adams.
To get somebody who doesn't need to score, who just wants to be an asshole and get rebounds and pass the ball and do something, do that dirty work.
Right.
And that's not DeMarcus Cousins. Don't get me started on DeMarcus Cousins because I've seen that come back. We should sign him. No, we shouldn't. That would be stupid. That's just stupid to even think about.
Right.
And there's got to be somebody out there that's a Steven Adams type that we could plug into here. That would free up, the ability to get rid of Willie and get him his max deal in New York or wherever he wants to go, and build around him. And we have those other parts that, in Bagley and Giles and Fox, and hell, if you threw a Durant in, then, hell, if we got Durant, I'd be fine with starting Costa Kufas because he's our Steven Adams type.
Right. Let's see here. So
TJ, you're funny.
Let's resign Mitch Richmond. Yeah, right. Just looking at like the list of free agents that are bigs. There's Karl Anthony Towns. There's Kristaps Porzingis. Both of those guys are restricted. There's DeMarcus, Al Horford.
He's too old.
Yeah, exactly. Paul Millsap's too old as well. DeAndre Jordan will be available next season potentially. He's on a 1-year deal. Other intriguing free agents: Frank Kaminsky, Willie Cauley-Stein, Hassan Whiteside. But I mean, the Heat are pretty much ready to move him.
Boy, his team sure went out, didn't it?
Right. Enes Kanter is going to be available next year.
That's a good piece.
So there's definitely options but then again, if you can talk Willie off the ledge of expecting to have $100 million deal and $25 million a year, and you could get him down to that 4 or 5 year deal at $13-14 million and give him a $60 million or $70 million contract, then I don't have a problem with bringing Willie Cauley-Stein back. It's just you got to talk him off that $100 million ledge and explain to him, like, look, you've been in the league for 4 years?
Yeah.
You're still on your rookie deal. You have 2, maybe 3 big contracts left because the NBA's max deal is 4 years. You probably have you probably have 2 more years for sure of getting paid, or 2 more deals for sure. Come out on this one because everybody. Oh, Jesus. Oscar, man. Willie Cauley-Stein has $16 this season. Fox has 19. If you could convince him that he gets a $13 million or $70 million deal and it's his turn to show out, and let him see that he goes from a rookie scale to $70 million, the next deal is probably going to be $100 million. Maybe you get more value out of him. But if you come out and reward him with $100 million right from the jump,
he's done. You are
not going to get anything out of Willie Cauley-Stein.
No.
And that's what worries me the most about him. Let's switch gears. Let's hear about a couple commercials here, a couple bills to get paid, and then we're going to talk Major League Baseball. And the Los Angeles Dodgers are making noise.
They made noise.
They made noise, and there's rumors that we need to kind of put a little kibosh on here. Our soundboard just quit on me. Here we go. Hey guys, I'm excited to announce a new partnership with Antonio Pacheco from Folsom Lake Ford. Tony has been my go-to sales guy for a number of years, and he's come on board to bring the awesome sales buying experience to each and every one of you. All of his information is on our website at sportstalk916.com, but if you're in a hurry and you're looking for a new car, give him a call today. Antonio Pacheco, area code 530-218-7069. He will answer all of your questions in regards to the car buying experience, and he is the main guy that I trust in the Sacramento area for all of your car buying needs. Again, Antonio Pacheco, Folsom Lake Ford, 530-218-7069.
If you or anyone you know is thinking about buying, selling, or investing in real estate, they deserve to have someone working with them that not only knows what they're doing, but will explain everything that happens along the way. That person would be me, Coach Greg Baroza of Keller Williams Realty. I have two goals. My first goal is to coach you through the buying and selling process, making it easy to understand and as stress-free as possible, which isn't easy sometimes. My second goal is to have fun doing it. Come be a part of my team. Let me coach you or anyone you know through the real estate process. Give me a call at 916-241-8068, and let's talk about how I can coach you through the real estate process. Let me ask you one question. Who do you know that's looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate that I should know right now? Again, that's Greg Baroza, Keller Williams Realty, 916-241-8068.
All right, let's talk Major League.
Stepped on my own commercial.
Right?
Yeah.
I had you muted. You're good.
Okay.
So I guess before we get to the Dodgers trade, the Giants did make one move so far. They got their switch pitcher. Pat Venditte has signed with the Giants. He's going to cross over from where he was in Oakland a couple years ago to San Francisco, and he'll provide a nice little.
I actually kind of like that pickup.
Me too.
You know,
you get two pitchers for one. He's
right.
serviceable from both sides of the mound,
Yeah.
and it takes some pressure off of Bochy because you have basically two guys now.
It frees up a roster spot too.
It does. Oscar says baseball sucks. Doyers suck. Welcome Harper. That's what we're going to talk about right now. Dodgers Reds, big ass trade. I don't even have all the intangibles of it. Basically, it was basically an NBA trade. I can pull it up here if I know how to spell.
So the Dodgers traded Matt Kemp and Yasiel Puig.
More than that. It was like six.
Oh, no. I know. I wasn't finished. And some prospects, I think, wasn't it?
No, there was more. It was more than that.
Was it?
Yeah, Alex Wood, starting pitcher, Yasiel Puig, Matt Kemp, and their backup catcher. Kyle Farmer also went to the Reds.
Oh.
So did in return for Homer Bailey, Jeter Downs, and Josiah Gray. So
and they're
really
going to cut Homer Simpson or whatever his name is.
Yeah, they're going to cut Homer Bailey. They're going to pay his $22 million this year and the $5 million buyout for next year just to not have him. And immediately, Dodger fans like, oh, they're going after Harper. They're not. No, they're not. Because I read like 5 or 6 articles about it from a lot of the Dodgers beat writers this morning. Basically, what this is the Dodgers were trying to get under the competitive they call it the CA, basically the salary, the luxury tax, the competitive agreement or competitive advantage tax or whatever they call it. This gets them about $43 million, I believe, under that for them to have some room. The plan right now, from everything that I've read for the Dodgers, is they can basically. So they got $43 million of extra space. $17 million of that is going to be going to arbitration-eligible players next season. They're going to want to be around the $20 million a year mark for anyone else they bring in. There's a lot of talk that they could be going after an A.J. Pollock, who's a free agent out of Arizona. There's apparently they're very high on the idea of trading for Ramulta, the catcher from the Marlins, who's right around that $20 million a year mark without going over budget for a player to bring in. There's a lot of there was a lot of speculation about Bryce Harper. It doesn't fit the mold that the Dodgers want to go with. They want to stay extremely young and basically outsmart the rest of the league with analytics and all that other stuff. Unless they're willing to change their mantra of bringing in an older, who's still young, Bryce Harper at way over the luxury tax, a lot of the talk is that they don't want to do that. They want to keep the idea of staying under the tax for a couple of years without completely breaking the bank and staying young. So Harper, while he does make sense, a lot of the talk around LA is that he's not the reason why they made that move. It was to get under the cap and to allow them to be flexible, bringing in other players to fill a need. I wouldn't be shocked if they break that mold and go after Harper, but at the same time, I think they want to fill multiple holes because they still want to have money to extend Kershaw again. And if you bring in Harper at $30 million a year, the chances of them being able to extend Kershaw long term and still be under that cap is going to be extremely difficult, and it's not what the Dodgers apparently want to do. You bring in a JT Realmuto, you bring in an AJ Pollock, you bring in a number of other players around there. You still have wiggle room to do a Kershaw deal and not handcuff your franchise player. Is basically the idea that I got.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that, and that makes a lot of sense. I think what this trade does is it gives the Dodgers some flexibility. So now if they decide they want to go after Harper, they can.
Yeah.
And I can see them making a play for him because in those markets, in the Los Angeles, in the New York, in those type of markets, you got to make a big splash because there's a lot of stuff that competes against what they do. And I can see the Dodgers making a play for him as much for the competitive nature, but for the big splash and drawing butts to the seats and getting people to watch on TV. I mean, I can see them making a big play for Harper.
I could see them being in Harper talks just to raise the price on him for other teams. I don't think the Dodgers necessarily want to sign him unless they could keep it under $30 million a year, which I don't think they're going to be able to do on a 10-year deal. I still, as if the Giants are in on him, I could see the Dodgers wanting to be in on him simply to raise the Giants' price, to kind of force their hand a little bit more. But ultimately, I still think, and it's as weird as it is, I think that Bryce Harper is going to go to the Chicago White Sox. I think the White Sox are the team that can throw the most money at him. He can play Kaminsky, or not, it's not Kaminsky Park anymore, but whatever their stadium is, he can hit home runs back to Washington from that damn stadium. But I can still see the Giants being a place he wants to play. I'm not ruling the Dodgers out, but I just think that they have other needs that they can fill. You could go out and you could get Realmuto from the Marlins for a bunch of prospects because they're a train wreck.
Yeah.
You bring in his $17 million a year, and then you could go out and still sign an AJ Pollock to run center field out there or right field in Chavez Ravine, and you have two players for under what you're going to pay Bryce Harper. And Bryce Harper's coming off a bad year. As weird as that sounds with how good of a year it was, it's a bad year for him.
Right.
And like Oscar just said, the Dodgers need to focus on the bullpen and starting pitching. They're not the powerhouse team outside of Wood and Kershaw right now that they thought they were. And
once you get into postseason, Kershaw's not a force either.
Exactly. So
do you think that guaranteed rate field? Oh God. Do you think that Harper gives the Dodgers a hometown discount since he's from Vegas?
No, I don't think he does. I don't think you got to remember, Harper has Scott Boras in his back pocket.
Yeah,
nobody's getting a discount on anything. He's going to charge them more to go play at home because they can market him as a hometown boy.
Right.
I wouldn't be shocked if that's the way that Scott Boras approaches it. Like, oh, it's your hometown guy. You're going to bank on the fact that he's basically your hometown guy. you're going to give him another 10 million or whatever it's going to be. You know what I mean? That just fits the mold.
Yep.
So I think, the new year is going to be fucking crazy for Major League Baseball. Pieces are going to start falling. You're going to, winter meetings again were quiet. There wasn't a lot that happened. And I think that once the new year convenes and the holidays are over, it's going to be one of those things where you're like, who went? He went what? He went where?
Yeah.
For how much money? Like it's going to be crazy.
Yeah. And there's only, so I pulled it up. Go ahead. But there's,
go ahead.
I was just going to say that there is
54 days until pitchers and catchers report.
Hey, bitch.
I
was just looking that up.
Yep. It's close. It's fucking ridiculously close. NFL. The big story that came out this week is, and Steve, to mention your point, did we talk about LeBron's slave owner talks? We're not going to.
No.
One thing that we found is better to leave alone is the racial agendas and all the, the political differences that folks see when it comes to the barriers of social injustice and whatnot. We don't tend to get on the side of much support on that, simply for the fact that we apparently don't have a leg to stand on when it comes to that, and our opinions are invalidated. So we avoid it. Le'Veon Bell came out apparently and has a idea of where he wants to play next season. And it blows. I'm starting to feel that 49er fans are as fucking retarded as Kings fans can be at points, because I'm in like 4 or 5 different Niner groups, and 3 or 4 of them posted, "Oh, we're going to get him. We're going to get him. Le'Veon Bell's coming to San Francisco." And then I read the article. San Francisco's not even mentioned in the rough draft. Like, it's like, and that was my comment. I'm like, did you fucking even read the article? San Francisco's not even in the breadth of the fucking conversation. And they're like, no, he's come. We're not paying Breida, McKinnon, and Le'Veon Bell. Like, just shut up. It's not going to happen.
No, I didn't see the article. I'll give you my guess on where he ends up first.
Yep.
I think he goes to Kansas City.
Do I have a game show buzzer? Hold on. Wait. I fucking don't. Say that again. Where do you think he goes?
Kansas City.
It's about as close as I get to a buzzer. No. You want to again?
Trying to think who needs a running back. Philadelphia? I have no idea then.
Later, Oscar. Merry Christmas, man. One more guess.
Seattle.
The team that Le'Veon Bell has said he wants to play for next season, they have like $100 million in cap space based on the new year that's going to be coming out. They have a great offensive line, and they have a very, very good quarterback that he can play in front of or behind. The Indianapolis Colts is where Le'Veon Bell apparently wants to play next season, should all the pieces fall in line.
Really?
Yeah, but apparently Indianapolis Colts is like Swahili for 49ers, because all the 49er fans are like, oh, he's going to the Niners. Fucking retards, man. I keep saying that R word. I got to stop. Fucking idiots is what I need to start saying.
Right.
I say he's an idiot.
But, yeah, so Le'Veon Bell there, it's going to be interesting, especially for the fact that it's in the AFC, and he's going to be able to compete against the Steelers on a yearly basis there.
Although, can you imagine him playing for Kansas City?
Oh, that would him and Jesus Christ. That would be insane. Next one here is the Patriots Dynasty dying. TJ is not going to like this conversation, but the Patriots are falling apart. Their dynasty is on the verge of crumble, which is weird because I was looking up stats about the Patriots, and since 2001, they've only missed 5 AFC championship games. And since 2010, they've been in every single one of them, which is unheard of. Like you know they don't make the Super Bowl every year, but to know that they've been in the AFC Championship every single game since 2010 and they've only missed 5 of them in the last 18 years, you're like, Jesus. They really are like the best dynasty that football has seen. And there's talks that and I don't think that I disagree with this, that Bill Belichick could be the greatest coach to ever coach in the NFL. And it's almost uncanny to think that this team is starting to dwindle. They just lost Josh Gordon for the season. He's going to be suspended, and I don't want to get into this too much because it's not a football thing; it's a personal thing, and it's an unfortunate situation for a young guy that's trying to get his shit right, and he just can't seemingly do it. Mm-hmm. Reports are that the Patriots put 24-hour security with him at all times to prevent him from relapsing. And apparently during the bye week, he got away from his security and tested positive for more than just marijuana in his system. And it's clear that this guy has a imbalance that he needs to fix. Hopefully he gets the help he needs. There's already been reports that the NFL is not closing the door completely on him. If he can prove from now until the start of next season that he's been clean, there's reports that Roger Goodell is willing to give him another shot, which I hope he does figure out, and I hope he does get another shot because he was the best receiver that the Patriots had for the last 5 weeks, and he was turning it around, and it's unfortunate that his demons got back to him. But regardless, they lose their best wide receiver. Rob Gronkowski is not the Rob Gronkowski that everyone remembers. He's taken so many steps back. Tom Brady at 41 years old is showing that he is human. He's not even in the MVP conversation, which a 41-year-old probably shouldn't be.
But he should be. He's having a good year.
Yeah, but he's
not having a Brady-esque year.
Right.
But he's having a pretty damn good year.
So there's all that going on. As of right now, the best option as far as a field-stretching wide receiver, now they still have Hogan and they have Edelman and they have all those guys, right? But the best option they have to be that playmaker is Cordell Patterson. And when you have Cordell Patterson as your marquee player, you have a little bit of trouble falling your way. The running backs aren't playmakers. And then the thing that I think Belichick is losing the most is their defense is just atrocious. Their defense is not what Bill Belichick built his no, Josh, I don't think you're right. Sorry, Travis Kelce is the best tight end in the league right now. No, I don't. I honestly think, and this is not my homer opinion on this, I feel that the 49ers have the best tight end in the NFL, and that's in George Kittle.
I'd say I agree with you,
maybe
but I think
1A and 1B.
Yeah, exactly.
But
because Kelce is pretty damn good, but Kelce has a quarterback where Kittle doesn't.
That's true, but
Kelce has a quarterback that can find him. Kittle has had 3 quarterbacks this year, and
he's still tearing it up.
yeah. So I would say, Josh, 1A, 1B. Kelce definitely is. If he's not the leading receiver, he's close to being the leading receiver on the Chiefs, which you don't get from a tight end that much.
The Niners leading receivers Kittle with no quarterback. We already talked about that.
Yeah. So anyway, I 1A, 1B.
Yeah, but I think that Kittle is poised. If Garoppolo could come back and build on what they were working on, and Kittle continues to grow, because I think Kittle's jump from rookie year to sophomore year has been probably one of the fastest rising tight end jumps that we've seen in the NFL in a long time. Maybe Gronkowski's, but Kittle. I mean, not only is he a catcher and he can catch the ball from multiple spots on the field, but I think he's the highest rated blocking tight end in all the league for the run and the pass. I mean, he's a jack of all trades, and I think that's huge for San Francisco. But back to the Patriots, their defense is falling apart. You got to assume that eventually they're going to start a rebuild there. Kraft has been apparently talking about turning over the everyday operations to his son, and stepping away from the team. At some point, the rebuild's going to start, and they're going to start retooling. And I wonder if Belichick steps down in the next year or two and walks away, because
I can see that.
Can you imagine being the front office that fires Bill Belichick? Like,
oh, he's not going to get fired.
No, but I'm just saying, like, if let's say they miss the playoffs or they get knocked out in the wild card, this will be the first time in Brady's career, by the way, that he hasn't had a first round bye in the playoffs. If they make the playoffs this year, can you imagine if Bill Belichick gets let go? It's like, dude, you're the guy that fired. It's like when Jerry Jones fired Tom Landry. The only problem is they don't have Jimmy Johnson to slide into that coaching spot, right? They have Josh McDaniels as their next heir apparent, and that's not going to be good. But the other thing that I think is crumbling with this team is you look at their coaching staff, their defensive coordinator, their offensive coordinator, their front office guys. All of these guys in years past have, and this isn't my knowledge, I read this morning on CBS Sports, that all of these guys in their front office over the past 4 or 5 years have all very forcefully turned down opportunities to interview for head coaching positions, GM positions, all this other stuff. Reports are coming out now that every single one of them is open to interviewing elsewhere. So you could see the Patriots front office and executives and coaching staff really start to crumble. Josh McDaniels, he stayed in New England because he's not going to be a good head coach somewhere else, or he's waiting to hopefully fall in line and take over for Belichick. But you're going to see a whole different coaching staff in New England, and I think that,
so let me throw out a name that we brought up a couple of weeks ago, I think, for the Green Bay job, as a potential. What do you think about Nick Saban taking over for Belichick? They're the same. They've had the same level of success. They're the same personality traits. They're the same coaching style. Do you think if Belichick decides to walk away, that the Patriots make a move for Nick Saban?
They'd have to throw $1 bajillion at him. And like what TJ just said, one thing to keep in mind about this team is they're cheap. They don't throw money around. And
yeah, but do you think, Saban doesn't, Saban, he's made a shit ton of money.
Yeah, but to lure him away from what's built him up as the greatest coach ever, you don't think Alabama's going to throw, $20 million a year at him if he threatens to leave? Alabama has the money to do it.
You think he gets bored, though? Don't you think he gets bored of this basically walking in, basically starting the season and knowing that you're going to be in the NCAA playoffs? What if guys like this are ego driven. So for him to say, okay, I've done this at Alabama to where we're an automatic entry into the college playoffs every year. Let me take this team that is basically been the Alabama of the NFL, if I want to say that, and they're starting to fall off. Let me rebuild them. And then the talk becomes, Belichick's not the greatest coach ever. It's Nick Saban is, because he did the same thing in Alabama, took a team that had years and years of success, that had fallen on a little bit of hard times, and rebuilt them. And now he comes back to the NFL and does the same thing. I think that opens the door for him being able to cement his legacy, which I think at this point in his career is much more important than a big contract.
Let me ask you this, and I'm going to put it up on the screen for you.
I can't see it. It's blocked off by the live comments. Hold on.
Why would you leave that security? He's literally getting a truckload of money dumped into his account every week or every month or every year, however they pay him, to have that easy job. How many college coaches left NCAA as one of the greatest things ever, went to the NFL, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, maybe you're not as good. Like, his legacy is so cemented that why would you leave guaranteed success and literally writing your own paycheck? He gets a blank check from Alabama every time a contract is due, and he goes, I want this much. And they go, okay, we'll just bend over and take it from you. You go to the NFL, unless you're taking over a team that's already set up for you to succeed in the exact same way, I think he's been doing it long enough that he wouldn't need to necessarily leave that. He's so set that I don't think egotistically, I think his ego doesn't need to be stroked.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you. I couldn't disagree with you anymore.
You don't think
these guys are ego driven?
You don't think he could stroke his own ego by going and running off 15 more championships in Alabama?
I think he gets bored. I think he gets bored. It's not a challenge anymore. These guys are ego driven and they like the challenge. And he knows that there's only been really one college coach that's moved into the NFL and been really successful, and that's Jimmy Johnson. No other coach has been able to do that. And to me, what Saban does is he says, look, nobody's ever done it. I'm going to be the first. I failed the first time. So did Belichick. I have an owner that knows how to put together a winning franchise, knows what it takes to do that, knows what he has to look for, gives him the freedom to do the coach, has worked with a coach that has the same level of ego that Saban has. I think it's a match made in heaven for him to come in and say, you know what? Nobody's ever done it. I'm going to be the first one to do it, and here's where I'm going to do it at. Yeah, I agree. Pete Carroll did.
What if he takes that same mentality, though, and if his ego is that big, why wouldn't he go to a team that has never been successful? Why wouldn't he go to Cleveland?
Because he's not stupid.
But if his ego is that big where he could leave Alabama and go, you know what, I'm going to be the greatest ever. I'm going to go turn around Arizona. I'm going to go turn around Cleveland. I'm going to go turn around Cincinnati. Like, there's a lot of teams that he can turn around that would make more sense.
No, there's fewer teams because New England knows how to put together a winning franchise. Obviously, Cleveland, Arizona, some of those other teams don't know how to do that. And
he's going to come in as the general manager and the coach anyway.
I don't think he is. I think that he's not stupid, and he knows that New England already has the formula, and he could go in and say, okay, you guys do what you do. I'll help. Here are the guys that I want. You go get them. Here are the positions that we need. Let's go get them, and let's get you back into a dynasty. Let's continue to the dynasty. I think it's a match made in heaven.
What do you think about this? It's hard to read, but whenever these conversations happen, people tend to forget about the fact that these people have families and friends and gloss over the concept of being at home and being happy with that. Alabama, he doesn't have to. I mean, they travel a little bit, but they're primarily home always. He moves to New England. They have a gruesome schedule where they're gone all the time. There's a lot more that goes into being an NFL head coach. You're at the office a lot more. You're doing a lot more things. Because if his job is as easy as you say it is at Alabama, Nick Saban can pretty much mail it in, and he doesn't have to do anything, right? Everything else works for him. The NFL is a different beast. Like, is he at a point in his life where he could go, I can make a little bit more money, but I have to put in double the amount of work? Like, he may be content with that lazy. If I was paid, if someone offered you a job, let's say Keller Williams came up to you, right? And they said, you know what, we're going to go ahead and pay you, what would be the equivalent of $1 bajillion in the NFL to you? Like, we're going to pay you $100,000 a month or every 6 months. So $200,000 a year salary to just sit online and list properties. You don't have to show them. You don't have to do any paperwork. We're gonna have people do that for you. And as long as you hit X amount of listings online on your website, we're gonna go ahead and pay you. Okay, would you take that over another company saying we're gonna give you $250,000, but you have to go out and you have to do the legwork. You have to go out and list the houses. You have to do the open houses. You have to do all the showings. You have to do all the paperwork. And you have to grind your ass off to make that money. As you get older in life, you're probably going to lean more toward the easy money, right? You're not going to be the workhorse. So if if New England were to come in and say, you know what, John Gruden just got 10 years, $100 million. We're going to give you 10 years, $120 million to leave Alabama to come to New England. Alabama is just going to go, oh, they're going to give you that. Okay, we're going to give you $130 million to stay. Or we're going to give you a lifetime contract for $200 million, and you never leave Alabama until you're ready to retire. He's not going to leave Alabama.
I still disagree with you. I disagree. So, and this actually is a point I wanted to bring up earlier when we were talking about Willie Cauley-Stein. You say, okay, New England will give you 10 years, $120 million. And Alabama will give you 10 years, $200 million. At what point does that money become inconsequential? At what point can you not do with $120 million what you could do with $200 million? I think at some point there's a line where it's just zeros going into your bank account. I don't think, and what you're failing to see, and one of the things I have a problem with Charlie's comments is these guys aren't at home all the time. They're not at the office grinding film, but they're out on the road recruiting. And they're all over the country. Saban was in Sacramento a couple of weeks ago. Nobody knew about it, but he was in Sacramento looking at some players from one of the schools in Elk Grove, I think. Those guys are on the road a lot. So to be home every night as opposed to being on the road recruiting could be that difference. But you're forgetting these guys aren't normal guys. Their ego is what drives them to do everything.
I can see that.
And for them to come in and say, Belichick built this, but it started to fall apart. I'm going to resurrect it, and I'm going to continue it. And I'm now going to be the guy who had an unstoppable college program that nobody could beat, and I'm going to bring back a team that is unstoppable in the pros. And he's going to try to cement his legacy as the greatest football coach ever. And I could definitely see something like that happening.
No, I could agree with that. Let's switch the coach talk to another coach that we've talked about in the past. We talked about John Harbaugh, right? We said that it was rumored that he'd be leaving. They're going to go ahead and release him. We talked about maybe he goes to Ohio State and creates the rivalry with his brother in Michigan. Reports came out today that two reports came out this weekend about John Harbaugh. One was piggybacking off of the report that we talked about a couple weeks ago that Harbaugh was going to be stepping aside from the Ravens at the end of the season. And that report was followed with Denver getting ready to fire their head coach and prepping themselves to make a strong run at John Harbaugh. The other report now is that the Ravens are ready to pick up Harbaugh's option, and they want to work out an extended deal with him to extend him even longer. If you're John Harbaugh, do you stay with Baltimore that you've been with forever and hope that they turn the system around with Josh Jackson or Lamar, whatever the fuck his name is? Jackson's the quarterback, Lamar, Josh, whatever the hell his name is. Do you stay there, or do you go to Denver and have a fresh start, work with John Elway, and try to rebuild that Broncos organization? Like, it's crazy to think that you can leave. There's so many rumors out there about, oh, he's going to stay, he's going to go. If you're John Harbaugh, what do you do? Do you stay in Baltimore, or do you look for greener pastures and maybe go out west to Denver?
That's a tough one. I hadn't thought about Harbaugh to Denver. I think you stay where you are.
He's been there for 14 years, 15 years.
No, he hasn't been there that long, has he?
I don't think so. Let me see. I think he's been there fucking ever.
I don't think so. I think it's only been 7 or 8. He could. I mean, he could definitely go there. I see Harbaugh. We just
2008. He's been there for 10 years.
Okay. Harbaugh and Saban, we were just talking about, an ego-driven coach. I don't see Harbaugh is the same style of coach, the same style personality. I think Harbaugh's much more relationship oriented. You could see it last night at the end of the game when I think after they had won and gotten a little bit closer to clinching a playoff spot, he was happy. He was hugging people. He was going around to pretty much everybody on the team and give him a hug. I don't see Saban as being that kind of guy. I think that you play off the relationships that he's developed in Baltimore, and you keep him around for 4 or 5 more years.
Okay, I want to move on from this because something just broke on Fox right now about the Raiders. Real quick about the Raiders. It's this week with John Gruden is going to be our new topic, because it seems like every week there's something new about Gruden running this team into the ground, right? Earlier this week, he signed Nathan Peterman to be the backup quarterback who was released from the Bills a couple weeks ago. Gruden apparently was as high as you can be on a quarterback coming out of college on anybody as he was with Peterman, which is unheard of.
Well, he's high on everybody. If you saw his football camp show,
right? But the fact that you got to witness Peterman in the NFL and then you still sign the kid is ridiculous. But there's the reports. So they fired Reggie McKenzie, right? And all the reports are because Gruden wants to build his team. Well, now apparently the Raiders are interviewing for a general manager, which doesn't make any sense to me. I guess they need a figurehead to blame everything on. But Reese, the former general manager of the New York Giants, who was fired last season, apparently has declined to interview for the general manager position of the Raiders. And the consensus around the league of general managers who may be open to interview for the job is that a lot of them aren't going to interview for the job because they're afraid that there's not going to be a true general manager position open in Oakland or Vegas. It's going to be a figurehead that works under John Gruden, who doesn't want to take the title of general manager and coach. So just another stake in the heart of Raider fans that John Gruden now is making it hard for them to find a general manager because no one wants to work with him. The other thing that just broke on Fox News is we talked about last week, the 49er stadium being an option for the Raiders to play in next season. I mentioned AT&T Park. A report came out this week that the Raiders have engaged in talks with the Giants about using AT&T Park for next season. Jay Glazer on Fox NFL morning show just announced that, or just said that, to not rule out London next season for the Raiders to play a full season in London before moving to Las Vegas.
Wow.
How pissed off would Raider fans be if they can't even catch a game at all?
Or they have to get up at 6 o'clock or they have to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning every week to watch the game.
Insane what's going on with them, man. It's absolutely insane. So that's this week with John Gruden there. 2 more things before we end it up here. Let's do our picks real quick, just so we get those on record. There.
Okay, I'm sorry, but I'm not here to get back in the presidential race. But you never know. I could be swayed. America needs me. Okay, now it's time for the most luxurious, amazing, incredible picks in the world. Mine. I'll take the Ravens to top the Bengals, even though that doesn't make sense because cats eat birds. I'll also take the Rams to beat the Seahawks, but who really cares? My upset pick is the Eagles to beat the Giants, and my wild card is the Bills to sink the Dolphins.
All right, boys, you heard his picks. Now it's your turn. Greg B, who you got?
All right, so I've shit the bed so far this week. I have 2 losses on Saturday games.
I went 1-1.
Standings right now, TJ Longacre 152, James Hines 147, Greg Veroza 140, myself 134, and Anya at 102. So, like I said, I started off the week strong. I took Washington over Tennessee, which didn't happen, ended on a pick 6.
I had Tennessee.
I took the Chargers over the Ravens.
Yeah, I did too.
Let's go through the rest of them. Jaguars are at the Dolphins.
I took the Jaguars.
I took the Dolphins. Giants are at the Colts.
I took the Colts.
Same. They're losing 7-0. Falcons are at the Panthers.
I took the Falcons.
I took the Falcons as well, which doesn't make any sense because cats eat birds. We finally got one. Patriots at home against the Bills. I took New England.
I did too.
I have the Texans over the Eagles, who are losing on the road.
I did too.
I have Green Bay over the Jets.
I took the Jets.
It's 0-0 at the end of the first quarter there.
I know. I think the Packers right now are a shit show.
They are. I have the Browns over the Bengals.
I am completely riding the Browns train for the rest of the year.
It's ridiculous. I have the Cowboys over the Bucks.
Yep.
I have the Vikings over the Lions.
Yep.
We're going to skip this one. I have the Rams over the Cardinals.
Rams over Cardinals, yes.
Steelers over the Saints.
Saints over the Steelers.
KC over Seattle.
Yep.
Denver over Oakland.
No, I took the Raiders.
Do you think the Raiders are just going to continue to fuck up their draft by winning another game?
Yep.
And then my upset of the week. I have the San Francisco 49ers at home over the Chicago Bears.
Talk about fucking up their draft status.
Right.
I actually wrestled with that game. I think I picked it 3 different times. I ended up picking the Bears, but I could definitely see the Niners winning that game.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
If we had confidence points put on these, that would be my lowest confidence game right there.
For sure, without a doubt. But I'm riding it out. I think Nick Mullins is working on securing his role as the backup next year to Jimmy Garoppolo, probably the starter to start the season over Garoppolo.
They said that that's not necessarily true, that they're not giving up on Beathard yet.
No, but I think if he continues to run up stats, he's the 3rd highest quarterback in yardage and completions in NFL history on his first 6 starts, or fourth highest. They're on pace to win 4 in a row. I think he has more intangibles than Beathard has. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, clearly right now you don't inflate the kid's head and tell him, oh, yeah, you got it, because maybe he doesn't play as well. But I think secretly the Niners are auditioning him to be the backup quarterback. And then, Beathard can still get you a 3rd or 4th round draft pick in a trade. So there's that. One final thing here, real quick, before we get to we're going to need some help for our 2018 Greggies. But let's talk something local real quick here. We talked last week. We ended the show with Folsom High School winning the state championship.
Yeah.
Is Folsom football dead as of right now?
No.
The reason I say that is Sacramento State just hired former Folsom head coach Troy Taylor as their new football coach.
Mm-hmm.
Folsom High School's head coach, what the fuck is his name? The hell is it? God damn it, what is his name? Richardson. What the fuck's his first name? Chris Richardson. He's been the head coach for a number of years. He's led him to numerous state championships, is leaving Folsom and joining the coaching staff at Sac State with former coach Troy Taylor. On top of that, the Folsom High quarterback coach, Bobby Fresquez, running back coach Chris Pari, and defensive coordinator Sam Cole are all leaving Folsom to join Sac State's coaching staff.
Bobby Fresquez is a former NFL quarterback too.
They're literally losing everybody on their coaching staff to go join Sac State. Do you think that, obviously Folsom's going to still get kids that are literally lying to go to Folsom High School. They're going to pick addresses that aren't really theirs and whatever to keep their program strong. But do you start to see a little bit of a downfall with Folsom High losing essentially their entire coaching staff that has built them up into what they are?
No, not at all. And the reason I don't think they are is because there are few coaching jobs in the United States at the high school level that you put out the word on and you're going to get top line coaches applying for. And with Folsom being a public high school and not a Catholic high school or a private high school, I think they're going to have their pick of whoever they want to coach from anybody in the country. I think they get a home run coach. I think they put together a great coaching staff, and they might take a little bit of a step backwards, but they're going to get somebody. They're going to get somebody good to come in and take over. And I've heard a couple of names of a couple local coaches that might go there, but I could see them opening this up nationally and getting somebody from one of the big name high schools in the country to come here and keep things going on. So no, I
have a nomination for high school coach of Folsom High.
Nick Saban.
Hi, this is Mike Barnbaum.
Barnbaum is going to be coach, and his defensive coordinator.
Hey, one thing,
and the number one recruit,
A fucking punter.
yes, I got all the staples in there.
got him in. You did.
That's right. What was the last thing you're going to say before we finish the show?
I was going to bring up something real quick, and I know you don't watch a lot of college football.
Nope.
And there's always these talks about expanding the college football playoffs to more teams. What's that?
They need to.
Yes. And one of the arguments that they always bring up is the fact that there's all these bowl games, and it gives all these players a chance to have some postseason experience, and the fans, would the fans travel to some of these games if their teams are playing multiple playoff games?
Yes.
And I was watching the Hawaii something or other bowl last night with Hawaii.
Yeah.
Hawaii, and I want to say it's like Eastern Michigan or something. I don't know.
Whoever it had a disadvantage because it was the Aloha Bowl and Hawaii was the home team in their own stadium.
Right. Did you see the crowd?
No. They
were dressed up as a lot of empty seats.
Ooh.
I mean, there was probably – I've seen that stadium. I've driven by it. I haven't been in it. That stadium holds 50 or 60,000. If there was 5,000 people in that stadium, I would be shocked. So why do we even use that argument that fans aren't going to travel? Because they don't travel, and it was a home game for Hawaii, and it still wasn't packed. So I think the Bulls are dead. There's about 3 of them that aren't in the playoffs that people actually pay attention to. You could definitely incorporate those into the playoff system, and there's a lot of talk now about going to 8. The second tier division has, I believe, 32 teams in there.
Louisiana Tech against Hawaii yesterday.
What's that?
Louisiana Tech was the team against Hawaii yesterday. Thank you.
I think the bowl system is dead. I think we need to get rid of it and go to a straight playoff with. I could see 16 or 32 teams.
I heard something yesterday that completely supports your argument. Is why can't college football have December be their March Madness? Why can't college football dominate December or even January like the NCAA basketball dominates March? And out over a couple weeks, have multiple games, don't have any one and dones. I mean, or the bowl system where it's 2 games. Stretch it out, and maybe you don't have all of these potential first round draft picks dipping out on games, because that was another thing that got brought up. Was look at Clemson. Clemson right now, if everybody declares eligible, there's room, or there's expectation that Clemson could have as many as 11 first-round defensive draft picks in this year's draft. You combine that with Alabama, you're looking at 19 first-round draft picks on defense from 2 teams. That's how stacked defenses are this year. But a lot of them aren't playing in the bowl games. And there's a lot of perception right now with all these guys dipping out. If it's like the Battle Frog Bowl or the Chick-fil-A Bowl, like, okay, you know what? You don't play in it, no big deal, right? I mean, it's a big deal, but at the same time, it's not. But what's going to happen when, multiple players, let's say their team makes it to the national championship game, and they just go, we're not going to play. And then you have like 5 or 6 guys that don't play, and then now the national championship game is diluted because you don't have those players that people have been wanting to see all year long. Like, make it a playoff system, make it something that, entices these players to play, not a one and done game, like actually make it something that it can groom them for the rigors of the NFL, a playoff system, a true grinded out style game. And, what I would hope is if they do get a playoff system in there, that it kind of takes on the same life as NFL playoffs, right? In the NFL, in the regular season, same with the NBA, in the NBA and whatever, it's like a run and gun, put up as many points as you can, play fast, and then in the playoffs, it's slow everything down. You pound the ball. I would love to see a system where Alabama and Ohio State and these teams that average like 40-plus points a game play against teams that maybe they wouldn't necessarily play against. And all of a sudden now it's like, oh shit, we got to run the ball. We have to slow it down. We have to really have strategy. And it's not just throw the deep ball and run past everybody every single play. And that would be great for grooming those kids for the NFL, because there's basically two seasons in the NFL. There's the fun season of how many points can you put up? And then there's the grinded out, like play football with strategy season. And I think college football needs that.
And if March Madness generates billions of dollars in revenue every year
for basketball, it would generate trillions in
we could say it's a far second place to college football. And I would say that probably right now, college football is probably the third or fourth most popular sport behind the NFL and the NBA. The NCAA could just print money if they had a December Madness, and it's coming to that. It will. The bowl system's flawed. It's done. It's just not going to last. And they can incorporate the bowls. At one point I saw years ago, and this was before there were, twice as many bowl games as there was then, is they took, at that point there were 32 bowls, and they took every bowl and they had enough teams to fill. They basically took that bowl system and made the playoff system out of it. So, they started at the Chick-fil-A Bowl and worked their way to the Rose Bowl throughout the bracket. And It was pretty cool. And you can still do that. They're going to travel. They don't travel now. So any traveling they get now is going to be better. And I would imagine that Alabama's going to travel much better than Louisiana Tech is.
Right. So one last thing before we get to the final thing on the show is, so next week we're going to do our Greggies, our year-end awards, right? The 2018 Greggies. And I want to reach out to our listeners, and I'll put it on Facebook as well, that we want to have ideas for categories this year. If you guys can go ahead and throw out ideas, Greg, you're going to be on the hook for a couple of them as well. But I'm going to go ahead and put out an early Greggy for 2018. How do I want to word this? Favorite NFL tweet of the year, favorite NFL player of the year. And it early award, and honestly, it's going to be the winner for me is Juju Smith-Schuster. Did you see his tweet this week? So Schuster has been battling a growing injury for the last couple of weeks. He's missed a couple games. On the 22nd, so 2 days ago, yesterday, on Saturday, he put out a tweet that said, "A lot on the line this week. The whole season comes down to this. Yes, I'm talking about the fantasy football championship. Of course I'm playing on Sunday. There's no way I can let down the real ones who believed in me by drafting me. Let's get it." So he declared himself active for this week's game, strictly for fantasy football owners that have him on the roster. Juju Smith-Schuster gets the award, the early Greggy, for tweet of the year and the NFL player who gets it the most. And I think that's fantastic.
To somebody like Curly, who will take a knee at the one when he has an easy score and say, "I don't care about fantasy football. It's about winning football games."
Right, exactly. So real quick, I'll just look at our NFL, look at our league, the show league for our fantasy football league. The final this week is for first place is the Pittsburgh Feelers. Danny is going up against TJ for first place. First and second place is on the line. Myself and Travis TNT versus Show Me Those TDs are going up for third and fourth place. The consolation round for 7th place is Cam Newton's gum versus colon fur. And are you already out?
I got 5th. We had our 5th place game last week.
Yeah. Okay. You got 5th. Okay. Yeah. So TJ, you're in line for the first place. Well, we didn't get a trophy. No one donated for the trophy, but we'll get you something. But yeah, so if you have ideas for Greggy's next week, we'll get them up, and get them to us on Facebook. And first time listener here, look forward to watching more episodes in the future. Mike, I appreciate you joining on and listening, man. We'll be here next week
At 9-ish? At
9 a.m. ish. Also check out obviously our Facebook page and sportstalk916.com. But for Greg Veroza, I am Greg Bowl. This was episode 266. We went a lot longer than normal, but we had a lot of good conversation. We appreciate all of you guys for joining in. And
good night, Larry.
Now, if you missed the show, you can catch the feedback on the playback on Facebook, or it'll be on iTunes and Spotify and also Google Play. So for Greg, I'm Greg. You guys all have a very Merry Christmas. We will see you guys next week.
Good night, Larry.
Rookie listener of the year, Mike Hawthorne. There you go.